Everybody takes it so literally. That's why.
Except Mason. Mason is
Yeah, I don't think that way. I'm sorry if I offended you. I just don't think that way.
We thought we'd let you know, so you never say it again.
There you go. Thank you. Well, good. I'm glad, because when I say something and I see everyone snickering, I'm like, what did I say? I'm just like, see, that's part of being born and raised in Philadelphia. You just say what you're thinking, and you don't worry about hurting people's feelings. That's the way it is. That's right. Philly people have no filter. Because that stupid holding call. Okay. You know that wasn't a holding. That was not a hold. He touched the guy. He didn't grab him. He touched him.
Oh, that's what we're talking about. Was it like behind his waist?
He didn't hold. It was not a holding call. The last minute and a half of a tie game in the Super Bowl, and they called that a holding call. I'm like, are you kidding me? That was the Super Bowl deciding call. I'm like, why don't you just let them play? But the guy that was I forget who it was on Kansas City that was running in for the touchdown was very smart by downing it on the 1 yard line. Because the Eagles would have come back and scored a field goal. All right. So when we're solving for an angle, what do we look for? How do we do that? Inverse function, yes. Okay. So let's see, a wheelchair ramp, okay. So we have a wheelchair ramp that is 4.2 meters long. It rises 0.7 meters. What is the angle of inclination? Okay, so here's the ramp. Of course, the ramp is going to be the hypotenuse, right? This is how high it rises. And here's our angle of inclination. Remember, we talked about this last week. The angle of inclination is the angle that it takes if you were laying on the ground, right? If you were laying on the ground, whoops, I can do that again. And you looked up, right? That's the incline. You're looking up. So that's the angle of inclination. An angle of declination is if you're looking down, right? So if you're like in an airplane or a balloon, right? And you look down, that's your angle of declination, okay? So again, to find this angle, we're doing the inverse function. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So if we're finding the angle, we take the inverse sine of the opposite over hypotenuse. Okay? You're good with that? We talked about this last week, right? Angle of elevation, that's the same thing as angle of inclination. So the angle of elevation of the sun is 68 degrees when a tree casts a shadow of 14.3 meters long. How tall is the tree? So here we're talking about an opposite and an adjacent side. So that's going to be tangent. Okay, so that means the tangent of 68 equals x over 14.3. Okay, so this one, we have the angle, so we're not using the inverse, so we're just solving for x. So we multiply both sides by 14.3. So we get 35.393. And again, remember, if I don't tell you otherwise, you're going to round it to 3 decimal places. Okay? Questions so far? Okay, I have a short worksheet for you. 4 problems on the worksheet. When you finish, upload it to Google Classroom, and then we'll work on our whatchamacallits.